Hey guys, it's Logan here with Hydra 572. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Kershaw FreeFall, a relatively new offering from Kershaw that people seem to be pretty interested in and curious about. Let's go ahead and get started with intended usage. I see this as a one-knife EDC blade if you're only going to carry one blade. Something this size, this price range works for a lot of people. I think just because of the blade profile, it's not going to make the best utility cutter, but there are people that would disagree with me on that for whatever reason. I think you would want more belly and less of a subpoint and secondary front edge cutting motion than this knife provides. Then of course your emergency defensive. Not a knife that I would choose to defend myself with, but if I happened to have it in my back pocket and the situation presented itself and I had to, I would feel comfortable doing so. Also, due to the low cost and just generally cool nature of the knife, I do think of this knife as a gift blade and as sort of a collection piece, something that you can just have on you and flip around to show off to people. I think if you gave this to somebody who is not into the knife collecting hobby, they would sort of see what you were talking about high quality blades and why they're worth investing in. On to pricing, $26 on Blade HQ or $25 on eBay. Blade HQ's prices on a lot of things are actually looking a lot more competitive than they have in the past. No guarantee that that will hold true in the future, just a snapshot in time, November 2013. On to blade profile, we have an Americanized Tonto. I've found not the best blade profile for doing your EDC utility type cutting. A lot of your wear is going to accumulate on your sub point, on your primary point, and then on your forward edge, as opposed to spread evenly across the upswept portion, the belly, on a more conducive design for utility type cutting. And the forward edge has just always been a little bit difficult to sharpen on a Tonto for me because you have to sort of, on a sharp maker, do this sort of thing, and I wasn't really able to do it perfectly on the wicked edge. It was just a pain in the ass in general, and I've seen that on a couple of other Tontos as well. I'm sure there are people out there that wouldn't have a problem with it, but I have a little bit of a problem with it. Like I said, I was able to pull it off on this blade. Steel is 8CR13 MOV, a great budget steel. The retention on this model I found to be a little bit lower than you would expect from 8CR13. Just a little bit, though. It is pretty indicative of what you would expect as far as edge retention goes for a $25 knife, and correspondingly sharpening is pretty easy. The grind, as you guys see, it is a pretty attractive grind. It is partial hollow. This portion here is partial hollow, and then we have a flat, which is not my favorite utility grind, but for a Tonto, I think that a partial hollow actually looks really good, and I think this is an attractive blade profile. As you guys can see, the finish on the blade is stonewashed. It's not as deep or as dark of a stonewash as pictures on Blade HQ would have you believe. It is a pretty light color in general. On to deployment, I don't think the mechanicals are as good as on the Clash, my other Kershaw budget offering. On the Clash, the knife really pops out of the handle, and on the FreeFall, you don't really get that. It's a little bit more sluggish of a feeling. It's pretty fine, though. I've never had a failed deployment or a partial deployment because of it. It is spring-assisted, obviously. And your only real option for opening it is the flipper. You can't really, I don't know, like friction your thumb against the blade. That doesn't really work. And you also can't do like a flick inertial opening. It's got some pretty good handle retention. The lock, liner lock, and it's fine. It's no problem. It feels like over really repeated openings and closings it would get a little irritated on your thumb, but I have done repeated openings and closings and it's not too bad. Play, yeah, a little bit side to side. Not too much up and down, not really at all. Handle, the material is a glass-filled nylon. I actually like the K texture. That texture there is just Ks, like from the Kershaw logo, repeated over and over. And I didn't think I would like it, but it actually works pretty well. Mixed with the ergonomics of the knife, which are really good, this provides pretty good grip in hand, pretty good retention. I think you would be able to hold on to the blade, and you do get a little bit of a guard made by that flipper there. So I think they were tactically styling this knife, so to speak. I think if you had to defend yourself with it, you'd be able to do so. Jimping, it's large and not very aggressive, but I actually like it. In the context of this knife's ergonomics, it helps lock the knife in, gives you a good pinch point there with the flipper, and it locks your hand in pretty good. Overall, the handle I am a pretty big fan of. I actually think I would have liked this knife a whole lot more, and I might grind this knife this way. I might do some modification. Just if they had continued this up and had a little bit more of a Persian-style upsweep, even if they had still done the Tanto grind on that portion, I think that would have been a much better blade profile for me, and a better blade profile for this knife. Though I don't think it would have stuck out from their line as much, and possibly not have been as attractive. Onto the clip. The clip's kind of bullshit. I had to bend it back and forth to get it the way that I liked it. It is very deep carry, and a lot of people like that. This is my first really deep carry SOG bayonet clip style of knife, and I gotta admit I'm not a fan, because a knife this size I like to keep in my back pocket, and for a front jean pocket the way the clip came was no real problem. It was still kind of pinchy and a little bit too deep for me. I would actually like to have at least a ½ inch to grip onto, but in a back pocket, this clip was really a problem, because up in this portion here, that portion of the clip, the very tip as the clip goes into the handle, as you guys can see, the clip screws onto the end of the handle as opposed to into the side. And in that crevice between the bottom of the handle and the clip, I would pinch some jean, and it would make it really hard to get that knife out of my back pocket. So if this was my only knife for defense, and it was in my back pocket, I'd probably screw up getting it out of my pocket, and that's no good. It diminishes the overall speed of the knife. The clip is stonewashed. It looks very nice, but after bending it, it's a little bit better. I made it looser so I could get it out of my back pocket really quick. Overall, big fan of the handle, though. If the backspacer is very attractive. There you guys can see it makes a wonderful contrast with the liners and with the handle material. Very attractive, and you get that lanyard hole there, very large, accommodating for lots of paracord or whatever you would like. Moving on to presentation, like I said, really good. It's a very sexy blade, sleek design, tactically styled, and overall it just looks really good. Like I said, I think the only thing that keeping me from raving about this knife as an EDC type blade is just the blade profile, which is too bad because it helps the knife stand out from Kershaw's lineup, but it sort of disqualifies the knife as a really good EDC in my mind. Quality is decent. It's nothing special, but for this money, you're getting some pretty good quality here. Like I said, the mechanicals aren't impressive. When I got the Clash, I was really impressed by what they were doing for that little money, having a blade that popped out of that handle. And this isn't that fast, but it's also a differently dimensioned blade. So I'm not harping on it at all in terms of quality. I haven't had to mess around with the pivot screw or anything like that the way that I've recently had to on $200 plus knives. I'm always impressed when a $25 knife I don't have to do anything with. I don't have to lubricate. I don't have to always be tightening screws. That's really good. And value, pretty good. HCR13 in good build, cool design on a new knife for $25. Well, you've got me on board. Moving on to competition. This style of knife is really heavily competed with now. The budget EDC blade market is really big because, surprise, companies have figured out they can make money there. So you have the classics like the $40 Tenacious and Resilience. You have the $25 SOG Fusion, which I don't own, but I want to soon. Same thing goes for the Buck Vantage, the Rat 1. You guys know how it is. There's all sorts of blades that want to compete for this money right here. That said, pass, fail, I still think it passes. Like I said, as a collection piece, as a cool blade, maybe you're not a serious knife user, you want to have one on you just in case you need to defend yourself, anything like that, or you want to give a blade to somebody who doesn't have a quality blade but they like Tanto points like a lot of non-experienced guys do. Very, very cool blade to give as a gift, I think. So I'm going to overall give it a pass. If you're thinking about picking one up and you're an experienced guy, you understand the limitations of a Tanto, Americanized Tanto style blade, go ahead and give it a look. It's a really cool blade. Specs, overall length 7.5 inches. Feels a little bit smaller than that actually, but it's got some good blade on it. So, blade 3.25, handle length 4.25, and it actually doesn't feel that way. It feels like you've got a good handle to blade ratio, but with the overall ergonomics of the knife, might be contributing to that perception. Blade thickness 0.12 inches and weight 4.3 ounces. Pretty light knife overall. So, if you're thinking about checking out a new offering from Kershaw, this one is pretty attractive in my mind. I think it is a very sleek blade, very stylish looking. It takes a lot to make me buy a Tonto profile blade in this price range and with this philosophy of use in mind, and Kershaw pulled it off, and overall I'm happy to own this thing, happy to rotate it through my EDC in that back pocket type roll from time to time. I think if you were one knife EDCing it, if this was going to be your only knife in your front jeans pocket, you'd be pretty happy overall, because frankly most people don't care if their knife goes dull or if they have to spend extra time reprofiling a front edge, something like that. So overall, sort of a knife aimed at beginners is the way I'm perceiving it, but if you're an experienced guy and you want it for a collection piece, or if you're a beginner and you think it's really cool, go ahead and give it a look. It's a pretty quality piece. Thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned for more of the same.